how did I join the faculty at RBS? It's a funny story, actually. I moved back to New York for the second time in 1989. I already knew Terry Ballinger. I would see him at openings and social events, and I would razz him. I would say, "You have all these courses, Terry, but nobody's teaching anything about medieval manuscripts." And he'd kind of harumph and say, "Well, why don't you send me a list?" I would send him a list, and he never hired any of them. This running joke went on for 10 years. Till finally, in the year 2000, I got what I call my Dear John letter. And it said, "Dear Roger, you are right. We should offer courses on illuminated manuscripts. And guess what? You're it." I was a little surprised, but I found out later that word had trickled down to Terry from New York that I sometimes taught classes at the Morgan Library where I was working, and that they went well. So I started teaching in the year 2000. That was the first time. At the end of the week, Terry sat me down and he said, "I understand your class went well." And I expressed some surprise. And he said, "Well, I had a spy in your class." I expressed more surprise, and he said, "Well, you don't think I was going to unleash you on my students without knowing what was going on in that classroom?" So then he said something else that surprised me. He said, "Your class was nice, but that's actually not the class I wanted you to teach." More surprise on my part. And I said, "What did you want me to teach?" And he said, "Oh, I wanted you to teach, codicology and vellum and skin side and hair side." And I looked at him and said, "Terry, I don't do that. The course that I taught, that's the course I teach. I teach the intersection between liturgy, liturgical time, art, and iconography. And if you want me to continue doing that, I will." Then I told him, I said, "Well, I will continue to teach for as long as I get good reviews," which I did for a number of years, continually. And so I taught my course called An Introduction to Illuminated Manuscripts, which sounds pretty basic, but actually was a very intensive, almost seminar-like class. And then in 2018, I converted it into a seminar, in this case on books of hours. And that also went very well, but that was actually the last time I taught at Rare Book School. I then had to retire. In terms of partnership with Rare Book School, the Morgan and Rare Book School, when I started teaching, Terry very much wanted all the students and all the staff in Charlottesville. So I dragged down something like 3,500 slides and taught from slides at a classroom on the campus. As years evolved, it became kind of the elephant in the room, like, why aren't I doing this at the Morgan since I have access to this collection? And eventually that's what happened. The wisdom came out that indeed it really made sense for my kind of class to be a satellite class and to be taught at the Morgan, not with slides, but with the actual manuscripts themselves. And that skyrocketed the class into a whole other level, because the students were working from the real thing, looking at the real thing, exposure to this fabulous, the best collection of this material in this country. Rare Book School has evolved in the roughly 18 years that I've been teaching there. It started off by everyone gathering in Charlottesville, and my teaching was with slides. Till it evolved till then, satellite classes were not only tolerated, but encouraged. And so I then ended up at the end of my time at Rare Book School teaching with the actual rare materials from the Morgan's collection in a classroom at the Morgan. And so that's, to me, going from 0 to 75. I thought it was a great transformation. I have two memories that I would like to share about Rare Book School. My favorite and my most vivid, which are different. And my most favorite is the pleasure I took in taking the time that I spent constantly modifying and upgrading my class within my course on the medieval calendar and turning that into a monograph on how to read medieval calendars and how to localize them. It's a long memory, but it's a very fond one. But it shares with my most vivid memory, which was a recurring one, which was teaching a week-long rare book school from 9 to 5:30, 5 days in a row, solo, was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And as the weeks approached my teaching, boy, did I start losing sleep and having very bad dreams. It was a very intense and tough week, I have to say. The Rare Book School plays such an important role in the learning about material culture, and especially with medieval manuscripts, which, you know, putting them on a slide reduces them to a flat nothing. They all look alike, the gold disappears. Manuscripts are very complicated, and they're also very beautiful, and you really can only learn what they're about by being in a room with them, with those manuscripts, and either turning the pages or have somebody turn the pages and teach from them. They're complicated, they're in Latin, they've got strange liturgical business going on in them, and that's one of the things that really prompted me to continue teaching, because I thought, in teaching, I can convey certain information that to actually sit down and write about would have been difficult or almost impossible. So that's why I thought that the teaching of this material was valuable and important. And indeed, in my case, I had, as part of my class, teaching on how to read a medieval calendar and localize it by the feasts that were there. A course that evolved over the some 15 years in which I taught this class, to the point where I got to a juncture where I thought, I need to write this down. This is useful information, and now I can take this slice from my class, which is how to read a calendar, how to localize it, and put it in a book. And I'm very pleased with that.